Welcome to another episode of Brand Chops, where we're chopping up brands to see what they're made of. My name is Zack Lemear.
And I'm Chris Duhaime, and today we're going to be talking about the backlash over the Jaguar rebrand, how Coke's AI-only holiday ads are causing some controversy, how the Wicked movie snafu on their toys is causing some issues as well. And not to be all negative, but we're also going to be talking about some Pepsi new commercials, which we actually really like.
Yeah, so let's just jump into it. The Jaguar logo, or just not just a logo, it's a total rebrand. Yeah. And it's everywhere. There's and I haven't yet to hear a positive spin on what they've done. So basically what they've done is they've rebranded their business. It's not just a refresh. A lot of times, so for the audience, there's a difference between a rebrand and a refresh. A rebrand is basically changing what you're going to do and who you're going to target. A refresh is just your look. So they did both. And Jaguar took their iconic Jaguar logo and their Jaguar name and the font, and they simplified it down to this font that they created that's a combination of uppercase and lowercase letters. It looks like a vape pen. You know, it's weird. They also took away that iconic Jaguar. I mean, they brought it back for like a subtle, they have so many different logos, and there's also this big piece that's usually on the steering wheel of the Jaguar, which is the Jaguar's face. And it's really intense. And it's been like this for a long time. And they have built this brand and this exclusivity and this scarcity and this luxury brand. And now they were always trying to compete more with their Mercedes and the Audis and the BMWs. Now they're going to be trying to compete with the Bentley and the Porsches. They're up branding. So and they're also, and what I've heard, and I haven't confirmed this yet. Yeah, I guess
that's their up brand.
Yeah,
I thought they were doing the opposite.
No. So it's interesting. So they're going up to competing with Bentleys, and I guess, and I haven't confirmed this, but I have heard it a few different places, that they're changing their cars to all electric. And so
that I did see. I thought what they were doing was rebranding themselves as a more, based on the logo and what I saw, it felt like a more affordable electric car, which is not.
No, I don't believe it's that. From what I heard, based on their press conference, they're doing it to up brand. Yeah. It's crazy because it could be great. It could be a great move. It's definitely bold. And then they have a lot of these other things they're talking about, not copying and be exuberant. And they have all these weird commercials that come out, and it's basically about changing it. And so they're apparently they're going to change the way that the car looks too. Probably going to end up looking more like the Tesla truck. I don't know. We'll see. But it's interesting because people are freaking out everywhere. And we'll interject some videos into this podcast to show you people's reactions.
I've owned this Jaguar for nearly 20 years now, 2006, and I bought it with my first bonus. But today, I go online and I see that Jaguar have completely betrayed all of their owners with this wokey-pokey, slippers on the head, ipsy-dipsy, minority, 0.5% minorities, let's appeal to them. Let's appeal to the Yas Queens. And you have completely destroyed your brand. I am selling this car as of today, as of seeing that advert. It's a Jag. It's a Jag. Okay? I don't think you understand. You take away the cat, you take away the old font, the iconic font, you've got nothing left. The only reason we drive your crappy cars that constantly break, that are made out of junk, quite frankly. They're a hunk of junk, but we drive them because it's a Jaguar. And you have ripped that from us. I was completely mentally and emotionally unprepared for what I saw. It goes beyond an insult. It was enraging. It was castrating. It was humiliating. I feel humiliated to be driving around in my Jag now. You have ruined my relationship with my car. And for your own brand, your own car brand, to do that after so many years, I feel like I've been cheated on by an ex. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but I have. And I'll tell you what, 20 years ago, 20 years ago, I was 20 years old. 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 I was 20 years o It's the worst feeling you can have. It's the worst feeling I know. So to Jaguar, I say, it's over. I'm done. We are done. Jag owners are done. It's a Jag. It's not a Kia. We don't put our makeup on in these seats. All right, there's no mirror on the driver's sunshade for that reason.
There's one where the guy who owns a Jaguar and who's owned a Jaguar for a long time, and it speaks a lot to the relationship you have with a brand. And he says things like, it ruined the relationship with my car. This is a Jag and not a Kia. But he also complains about how crappy the car is itself. He says it breaks down all the time, but he says, I bought this car because it's a bold car. It's a car that says something, makes a statement. It feels like I've been cheated on by an ex. But this is what I'm saying. This is the emotional connection that brands have with people, even if the product sucks. I've said this 100 times. People don't buy or sell anything but brands. I saw a Jaguar the other day on the street, and my first reaction was, wow, that person must have money. Because that's their brand. This luxury, exclusivity, scarcity. The whole reason why they did this is because their sales have been slumping since 2017 by a huge margin. I don't know if that's because the cars aren't great or because they lost visibility. I don't know, but they're pivoting to the electric car and they're changing everything. And they still kept the Jaguar, but it's like this now sub logo, and the emblem that had the Jaguar face is now like the J and the R of the new font.
Bad. The JR is bad. That part of the logo is really bad. A lot of people have opinions about fonts very quickly when they're used to seeing something. So that might fade away, but the JR, I'm not sure. That feels like something like I created when I first started designing.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying it looks like it was done in Canva. And, as good as Canva has been to democratize graphic design for everyone, people who really have a graphic design background know what's a real piece of work and what's a Canva piece of work. That's not a good look. But to be fair, Jaguar's getting a lot of free press right here. I've said this a bunch of times. Marketing's not about talking about yourself. It's about getting other people to talk about you. And right now, it's not great what they're saying.
Right.
But good or bad, they're in the news again.
Yeah.
And we'll see, because this is a very bold move. And maybe this is a pivot that makes sense, because I don't have all the data. I don't have all the information, and we will see. There's lots of pioneers out there that take these bold moves that don't make sense on paper, like Elon Musk buying Twitter and changing to the letter X. And then taking and stripping a lot of its features out, or building the Cybertruck, which is the weirdest truck you've ever seen in your life, which apparently has a ton of problems. But again, people buy it because of the brand. It's just interesting. So I'm gonna be inserting some different feedback that I've seen online.
You all hate our rebrand, but I'm here to reassure you, we have a vision here. We hear you. It looks like a vape brand that only children buy. You said that replacing the Jaguar head with a monogram was like murdering a British icon. We might as well have shot Paddington Bear.
They say that it looks like a vape pen. And there's been a lot of brands that have been doing this, where they super simplify their logo, especially these very, like Yves Saint Laurent and Balenciaga. And I've heard a term which I really like. It's more like blanding, because it's simplifying it. And I think that that's taking away the thing that made them stand out in the first place.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for simplifying the logo. I think that it can make sense for brands, and I think you have to evolve over time. And the trend over the last few years has been simplifying the logo. I mean, Pepsi simplified their logo. There's all kinds of brands that have simplified their logo, but usually there's some pullback from the past, right? They find some way to integrate something from their past logos into their current. But this one with Jaguar is just like a completely different everything. I would have liked to see them touch up the fonts that they were currently using. That font could have translated well to that EV design if they would have just, maybe just enhanced it a little bit. I didn't think they had to go that far. And if they wanted to get rid of the Jaguar, I'm okay with that. I would have been fine to use it as a sub logo, but they could have just kept some of the features of their existing logo in their font choices, instead of like just literally going the complete opposite direction. But I'm okay with them going the opposite direction if their audience is changing completely, which it sounds like it might be. But are they going for? I'm confused about their audience. Even just looking at their commercials, they've got young people with weird haircuts, with flashy clothes and lots of colors and be different. To me, that feels like a younger generation, not somebody that is going to be able to afford a Jaguar. If they're going the EV route, I think that's fine. But I thought in my head they were going the EV route and just changing it to a more affordable version of it. I guess it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I think if that's what their plan is, that's a mistake. They've got 100 years of being exclusive and luxury. And like I said, I saw one of these cars the other day, and one of the things that made me instantly recognize it was that hood ornament of the Jaguar, or the Jaguar, as they would say. Like you're supposed to say Jaguar. But even that, right? Like it's been put in movies. I mean, this is historic, this brand. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. And then Audi actually just made a pretty big change. They're not doing it everywhere, but apparently their sales are slumping in Japan, and especially in the EV market. So they've taken their iconic 4-circle logos and they took it off and they replaced it with the word Audi, which is weird also and that's getting a little bit of backlash. It's not such a drastic change like this Jaguar thing, but it is getting a little bit of backlash because it is, again, the iconic thing. It's like if Mercedes took away their emblem, or if BMW took away their emblem, you can simplify it. And I agree with that. Like, because in this day and age, you need there's something called a responsive logo. And some people think that means it just changes size properly, but that's not what it is. I think Heineken has this, Heinz has this. And basically what it means is that as it gets smaller, you can remove elements and attributes from the logo and still have it mean something. So for Heinz, for example, everybody knows that iconic label that's on the bottle. And so as they go down and make it smaller and smaller and smaller, it just becomes that label shape, and it's still instantly recognizable. So that's what a responsive logo is. And a lot of places are doing that. And I get that, because media is different. You need to have a logo that can be flexible and a brand that can be communicated in everything. But it's going to be interesting to see. So enough about Jaguar for the moment. Let's talk a little bit more about the Coca-Cola ads and how they've fully embraced, at least for their holiday ads, AI. Now they've got these AI generated ads. Now I think it's pretty cool, because I've tried to do some AI generated images and it usually screws up words specifically. And they did a great job getting their logo to not say like cucka cake or whatever, because it's just weird, like how it'll just have this hallucination and tell you what it means, like even if you're very specific. But their logo is spot on in all these things, and it's video too. So I don't know, what is your spin on that?
Yeah, I think it's a bold move I think their choice of ads to do it on is the one that I would say is the mistake. I don't think so much doing an AI generated ad is a mistake, because I think that's the way everything's going to go. Unfortunately, I feel like it's going to put a lot of people out of business. It's going to make commercials a whole lot cheaper to make, right? And like in looking at the commercial, it felt a lot like a storyboard that had been brought to life through AI. And they could have polished it off with a more human touch, and I think that would have gone off better. Like they could have taken all the elements of that and built, using people to create the lighting effects and things like that on the animals. And I think it would have felt more realistic, because if I remember correctly, this is like a callback to one of their first ads they did for Coca-Cola, like how they even introduced the polar bear and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think the whole point of that ad was the warmth of family and the being together and enjoying a Coke together and things like that. Like, to me, they took all of the life out of the commercial because they made it not by a human. I think if they would have chosen a different commercial to do this with, like maybe going into 2025 with a New Year's ad around that, something that could have, to me, would have made a better decision than doing a holiday ad. I think this is just the start of it. I think this is not going to be something that goes away. This, AI can be really creative if you prompt it to be. I think this is just what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be a landslide, because now that a big juggernaut like Coca-Cola started with this, everyone's going to follow suit. But what's interesting is that, and I could put this in the show notes more to to back up what I'm about to say is Coca-Cola kind of invented Christmas, right? Kris Kringle and Saint Nick and all these were like different people that they like homogenized together into this thing because they realized that people were only drinking Coca-Cola in the summer. And so in order to get them to drink at, in the winter, they wanted to symbolize it with Coke. There's a reason why the Santa that we know has the same red as Coca-Cola. There's a reason why there's so much Santa and Christmas and all this stuff in the Coca-Cola. The original like Saint Nick was like thin. He had like an orange or a brown coat, and he was like a robber, and he would like steal stuff from your house. And then there's a Saint Nick, and they fused it together to make it mean Christmas. And we celebrate basically Coca-Cola's version of Christmas all the time, which I think is crazy, but also speaks volumes in how marketing can penetrate society and social norms.
Sure.
Because consistency over time normalizes such a thing. And people forget where the origin is. But it all stemmed from data, right? They're like, people aren't buying this in the wintertime. What are we going to do about this? So they basically invented the Christmas that we know. It's interesting. It's just like, I mean, if you look at their Coca-Cola billboards, with the Santa and the big fat Santa, and it's like the Norman Rockwell style painting of a Santa, the home, the all-American. Then it's very interesting that they would choose Christmas to pivot like this because, I mean, we all remember the polar bear ads and all the different things, and they were really well done, and this was back when like CGI was becoming popular. So it wasn't just animated by drawings, it was animated by computers, and now it's animated without humans, basically. So it's really interesting to see how this is going to turn out and how the industry as a whole is going to follow or reject this. But I think that AI is only getting better at this because this was pretty good. It wasn't the examples that you see where you could obviously tell that it was AI. You could kind of tell. It's funny how all the world is changing with this AI, and just we'll see. We'll see.
I don't want to go too far on this, but just like another example of where marketing has basically created something in the real world that we do and talk about. Nike created jogging. That's another example of a brand saying, okay, we're going to create this thing where people run for fun, which, I don't get it. But but I think, I think it's just another example of where marketing can make an impact on the world.
And as a business, no matter what size you are, you can invent something that will sell your product. You could invent jogging. And I'm sure there's a million other examples that we don't have on the tip of our tongues right now. But it's interesting. It just really, it fascinates me. And then the next thing, and this one's more quick, but this is just a lesson of no matter how big you are, you have to make sure you double check the fine details. And there's a bunch of news right now about the Wicked movie and all the dolls that were pushed out. And on the back of the box of the dolls, it says wicked.com, which apparently is an adult site. And they meant to say wickedmovie.com. And I was talking to somebody today. They're like, oh yeah, I've already bought all these dolls and I found out about this and I hope they don't go to this website, but I've already wrapped it for Christmas. What am I going to do? Some of them are just saying that they're just literally going in and they're rewrapping the gifts after putting a black marker on it or something, just so their kids won't go there. But it's crazy.
I feel like 50 years from now, that Wicked doll unopened with that URL is probably going to be worth something, right?
For
it's
sure.
One of those mistakes that they're going to fix as quickly as possible. But they have, the only problem I would see is there's probably not a short run. They probably made a ton of them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So I'd be interested. I bet you'll, if you go to, actually, I'll probably go to the store today. I'll go and see if I can find it. And I'll see if they maybe started putting like stickers on it or something to cover it up. But I'll give you another example of something I did personally. So we do a lot of print for clients, and I was doing a brochure for a client that had a hockey program, and I created the whole brochure. We printed like 2,500 of them or something along those lines. And I spell checked it. I did all the things, but I must have like overlooked it or something. But I there was something that said like you had t-shirts included in the membership or whatever. And for some reason I forgot the R, and it was t-shirts. and I felt terrible about it. The client obviously wasn't happy about it. So I offered to reprint them all for him. But like, it's a simple mistake, right? I mean, it's one letter. Spell check didn't pick it up because, and
it was spelled correctly.
Because it's spelled correctly in one way. So it's just one of those things. It's important to double check and have other people that are not part of that project to look at things before you put it into production, especially something like print or toy dolls.
Yeah. And I've got one more example of something that happened locally. And I don't know how far Building 19, the brand, went. I don't know if that was New England only, but sometime in I believe it was the early 2000s when they used to print those little black and white circulars, and they'd come in every Sunday.
Yep.
And Building 19, for people who don't know, was like a discount big store, and they would just have a lot of cheap stuff. And they printed in mass. I don't know how many they printed of this. They were selling tank tops, but in all of their prints, they labeled them wife beaters.
Oh, God.
And they said wife beaters on sale, and they got in so much trouble for that. And that went through so many layers of oversight, and people are like, yeah, sure, this looks fine to me. It's spelled correctly. And so you've got to make sure that you're getting not just the spelling, but the context and the social awareness of what it is, especially these days. And I was looking through something, because I'm always looking through good or bad examples of marketing or branding. And then the last thing, and I want to try and put this, I'll do my best to put this into this podcast for people who are watching this podcast, but there's 2 Pepsi commercials that just came out that I think are brilliant. Brilliant. Like, I stood up and I went, that is awesome.
1, 2, 3, go!
We follow pizza drivers and make sure their customers get a Pepsi.
Is that legal?
It's a gray area.
That's the perfect combo.
They're on to us! 1, 2, 3, go!
Should I park in the back?
We help people sneak Pepsi into places that don't serve it.
What if they catch us?
We have a sports car.
Hey man, this doesn't make burger taste better.
Yo, what the
I thought Wendy was a ginger.
To enhance the flavor.
Where is everybody?
Sunday.
Do not make eye contact.
Nobody here wants your Pepsi.
It's really good.
Oh, that is good.
Say it into the napkin dispenser.
Here's some Pepsi for some extra flavor.
So get the out. Come on.
Okay.
It just tastes better. Go.
And Pepsi, for the most part, is not the first choice or even any choice at your restaurant, right? And I think that was by design from Coca-Cola. And I think there's also a story about how Coca-Cola fined people for not offering Coke or something. There was something so that they would be more likely to just say it out of their mouth and make soda or cola synonymous with Coke, the brand. Well, they have these 2 commercials that I'm at least there's 2 that I've found. One of them was pizza tastes better when chased with a Pepsi. And you see this Pepsi race car literally chasing delivery drivers and then pulling up behind him, go, and then jumping out of the car and then running to the door to hand a Pepsi over with the pizza. And they said, we know that pizzas are better chased with Pepsi. So we did it, literally. And it's just so good, the wordplay, and to build that visual in your mind. And funny makes money, and funny really lands. And it's just about storytelling. Yeah. And then the one that I think they did even better is they said they were doing undercover cups. And they pulled into the parking lot of a Wendy's and a Burger King and a McDonald's. And they said, your burger deserves a Pepsi. And all those places don't serve Pepsi, right? So they rebranded the cup with the logo that had something to do with their brand, right? So the Burger King brand had the 2 buns, and instead of Burger King underneath it, it just said, "This is a Pepsi." And so then they had these undercover cameras, and they'd go into these places. They just walk up to somebody eating in the restaurant. They take their drink off their thing, and they'd say, "This deserves a Pepsi." And then they'd leave, and the guy would be like, "What the," you know?
Right.
And then you see him getting chased out of the building, going, "They're on to us." And, it's so good because it's got so much wordplay, but it tells a story, and it puts the idea in the consumer's mind that the only way they're going to get Pepsi in these restaurants is if the consumer demands it. And this is one hell of a way to do that. Pepsi is brilliant with with the Pepsi challenge. They've always been brilliant with their marketing.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to be on a soda kick here with the Coke and the Pepsi, but
I was gonna say, I feel like there might be some changing in the guards here coming up here with both of them. Although I am still a Coke guy personally. So
yeah, I've been back and forth. When I drank a lot of soda, I drank a lot of Pepsi One in college, and then I went to Coke Zero. Also, there's a lesson there too. Coke picked red, and Pepsi had to choose, how do I stand out on the shelf? And they could have, red is technically more visible and more attractive. And that's why most fast food restaurants, it's always orange and yellow and red, because it makes you feel hungry, and it also makes you want to get in and out fast. But they were like, we can't compete because we'll blend in on the shelf. We have to be blue. And so that's why their main color is blue, which is interesting. But anyway, so this is just an episode to just kind of go over what's happening in the news and the brand world, because so much is going on right now between Jaguar and Coke and Wicked and Pepsi. And we just wanted to end on a high note and not just, blast all these brands. But we are chopping them up to see what they're made of. This is on brand for the show. All right, well, tune in next week where we'll chop up some more brands to see what they're made of. Brand Chops is brought to you by the fine people at Pivot Creative. Pivot Creative is a full-service branding and marketing agency that partners with businesses to build brands that connect so that every dollar you spend is an investment and not an expense. If you need some branding or marketing guidance, a website, a new brand, or want to learn more about one of the topics we cover on the show, please reach out to us at pivotcreative.com. If you know someone that would benefit from learning more from one of our shows, please share the episode. Visit brand-chops.com. And as always, like and subscribe if you find this content to be helpful. See you next time on Brand Chops, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of.